Patitala song is his favorite and that's what he's listening to. Give a kind of a kick when somebody says something like this, or are you like, hey, nice, and then you move on?
Acknowledge something like that, or say it's their favorite song, that felt pretty cool. That line is what, like, I was recording it.
It's one of those inspirational kind of songs.
Any song with AR Sir, anytime with AR Sir, I feel like a lot of the songs that I've sung for him, my first brief will be his kind of like musings just on the piano and singing a whole melody. So that immediately makes me fall in love. Like happened with Talipoga, they happened with Endro, this one as well. In parallel though, I sent the famous email to AR Sir and he responded and so on and so forth. And my phone wasn't ringing off the hook after RDA came out. No one really knew what to do with me. So I was pretty jobless for 2 years. Like 2 years later, I want to say Yannod Nindal came out, Yane Matrum Kadale came out, then Tallipogale came out. Sometimes I'll have some say on certain improvisations here and there, but other than that, like I'm an instrument. Upadesa mantra mire se vimidilun pagarsai.
I'm bad at math. Is that LCM or?
Oh, dude, I do not know.
like.
உங்கள் தங்க நகையை விற்று உடனடி பணம் பெற மேக்ஸ் கோல்ட் கால் 04445454545.
டார்லிங் மொபைல் உலகின் சூப்பர் ஸ்டார்.
கிராண்ட் ராயல் டூர்ஸோட டிராவல் பண்ணுங்க. இடங்களும் புதுசு, நினைவுகளும் புதுசு.
Hello Sid Sriram, welcome. You're one of my favorite singers. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you.
Outside of the airports.
I know.
And other places we keep bumping into each other.
Yeah. It's good to actually sit and talk.
Yeah, so you have an independent album, actually an independent song coming out called Soul.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that. But before that, I just wanted to warm up a bit and get into your headspace when Virat Kohli says the Patitala song is his favorite and that's what he's listening to.
Yeah.
Given the fact that you've been around for so long.
Yeah.
Does this still give a kind of a kick when somebody says something like this, or are you like, hey, nice, and then you move on?
It's kind of the latter, but it's like the initial kind of spark is still there. You see someone who's obviously like excelled in their field for a long time and is like the very top of it, acknowledge something like that, or say it's their favorite song, that felt pretty cool. It did feel, it felt good. It was also a nice little like pat on one's back, being like, all right, still going in the right direction, but then after that it settles into like, okay, move on with your day. Keep making stuff, go on with it. But the initial, like when everyone was tagging me and stuff, like once you get a bunch of messages or DMs start to go crazy, that something has happened. So check that and then look at the video, and it was nice for sure.
It was nice, okay.
And I love that song. So to know that song is the one, like some of the songs, there's certain songs in my career that I can really kind of stand on and be like, these are ones I really believe in. Most of them actually, some a little bit more than others. This one kind of is at the top of that list for sure.
Is it because it's one of those inspirational kind of songs?
I think, any song with AR Sir, for the most part, has been that.
Right.
I think that one, it starts in like the high pitch, like the first note is like this grand kind of introduction. So there's that. There's obviously, anytime with AR Sir, I feel like a lot of the songs that I've sung for him, my first brief will be his kind of like musings just on the piano and singing a whole melody. So that really sticks with me because like his purest expression or his like the source point expression. So that immediately makes me fall in love. Like happened with Talipoga, they happened with Endro Nindal, this one as well. And then the lyrics. I think Vivek like really knocked those lyrics out the park.
Yeah.
They just, especially when I recorded that where I was in my career already like having enjoyed fame and everything. To sing a song that talks about, just like glory, how it's borrowed, all those things, it just deeply resonated with me when I recorded it. So because of that, I think like there's a few reasons, but it's really special to me.
Yeah, and I'm at that stage in life where I really enjoy being motivated, even if it's by words. Like the fact that there's a line in that song that says, there's an ant. It cannot satisfy its thirst with the water of the sea.
Yeah.
But the droplets of water on a leaf,
give it
that
For
satisfaction. And I thought that was a very beautiful expression. Of course, it sounds much better in Tamil, but it's that kind of stuff is just I just love that kind of stuff.
And I feel like that song is sprinkled with these little like passages, phrases. I've talked about it before, but my favorite one is what's it called? Uravoya. I just talked about it the other day. I'm forgetting the lyric though. That line is what, like, I was recording it. I was at home in Colorado doing a remote session, and when I recorded that line, I like teared up, and it just like gave me like, and it doesn't happen like
because what? Because it talks about fame.
Yeah, it talks about the that line, the fact that it's like borrowed. He gave up his crown. Like all those things, I don't know. Like I entered this industry just like coveting fame and glory and celebrity and stardom so much. Having grown up in like the suburbs in Fremont in California, being so far removed from this specific industry, it always felt super aspirational and like something that was far off in the distance. And then it happened and all that stuff. And then it's been beautiful. But then you also experience not the negative side of it, the other side of it, though, which is like you kind of lose control of your name. It belongs to the universe or the world or to Twitter or whatever. You know what I mean? And your kind of anonymity goes away and all that stuff. And then also you really wrestle with your own ego because at least for me, music has always been like a deeply spiritual pursuit, but simultaneously there has been this kind of yearning to be recognized and to be celebrated and such. So once that happened, then the grappling became it was like a different wrestling match almost, where like, okay, these things are happening, eyeballs are on me, I leave the house, there's people coming up to me. I still have this kind of like deeper yearning to satisfy an artistic pursuit that feels like it's like, more powerful than everything else. And then also I'm enjoying being recognized. So it was just like a whole bunch of like a kaleidoscopic mixture of all these different emotions. And then when that song came to me, I think it was like, it just happened at the perfect time where I really just needed that piece to emote through and actually like really sort out some things like internally through the process of recording that one. And yeah, some of those lines at the back half of the song really, really hit hard. Yeah, so much so that anytime I perform that one live, every single time when those lines come, like it'll either at least be chills, if not like tears, and I've got to like pull it together and just keep charging ahead.
Now you've made this song called Soul, and this is not your first independent song. I mean, you've done a bunch of stuff before.
Yeah.
And it's been a constant parallel kind of thing that you've been doing. Now there are great singers like, S.P. Balasubramaniam, who pretty much said, I'm a film singer, like a film music singer, and that's going to be the thing I do till the day I die.
Sure.
And that's what he did. He pretty much, he composed the score for a couple of movies or whatever, but he stuck to the film music
context.
That's context.
Yeah.
Why? And this happened pretty early on. See, Adiye becomes this monster hit, and Sid Sriram becomes this singer that every music director wants.
Yeah.
But even right then and there was something churning inside you that said, I need to get into a parallel space. What was that churning?
Well, so even before my career in playback singing started, I had a whole other vision for myself as an artist. I went to Berkeley and I was writing my own music. Predating all that was my kind of like trajectory in Carnatic music. And I was kind of recognized as, I don't want to use the word prodigy because that just sounds pretentious, but I was talented when I was younger. And I was on a path with that. Felt a bit disillusioned with Carnatic music when I was in like maybe high school, just because I hit that point where it had to move from like intuitive knowledge to intellectual knowledge. And I had yet to kind of like really develop the tools to break things down intellectually. So I was, jammed up against this behemoth of a music form. So I didn't take a step.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so Carnatic music, obviously like it's known to be like highly technical and so on, but let's just take the idea of a raga, right? So each raga is, the way I try to explain it, is like a melodic universe unto itself. So with these phrase-based vocabularies that make a raga what they are. Super nuanced, very intricate, and very specific. And to understand that, it's not like Take Kamboji, for example. Probably the best way just to take an example of raga. So, sa ri ga ma pa da sa sa ni da pa ma ga ri sa is the scale up and down. But limiting it to a scale-based kind of understanding is super constraining and doesn't do justice to the idea of a raga. So Kamboji is actually made up of ta la 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 na na na, just like bunch of phrases that make it what it is. When I was in like high school or so, what had come to me very effortlessly as a child, because I think I just was probably passed down this information from like generations prior, I was forced to like actually understand what I was doing instead of just going in flow state, because to take that step up to the next level in a form that is highly improvised, there's only so much you can do by a purely intuitive understanding of a form like that. There's going to be a point where you start to trip up, and when you trip up, you have to have the tools to break these things down. Okay, this is how I'm going to understand this. And I did not, like I said, have those tools. So I got very disillusioned, very frustrated with it. And I didn't necessarily take a step back, but I felt the need to just expand. So at that time, that's when I really kind of dove into writing my own music and starting to write my own music. Also around when I started college at Berkeley. And yeah, when I was there, that's when I really started exploring this idea of taking the Carnatic roots and the different Western forms that had really influenced me growing up and finding a meeting point between them, and started putting up covers on YouTube and actually like started developing a real fan base, and kind of people in the industry started to know who I was by the time I was, let's say, like in my third year of college. So I thought that was going to be my career trajectory. I didn't really plan for anything else as such. So I was writing, like making my first initial albums then and all that. In parallel, though, I sent the famous email to AR Sir, and he responded, and so on and so forth. And that recording for Adiye actually happened in my like final semester at Berkeley. So, and even when that recording happened, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but I thought it was like an audition. I didn't know it was an actual recording.
You've spoken about this, yeah.
And even after the recording was done, there was definitely like the song wasn't supposed to be in the movie. Then they tried other singers, so on and so forth. But finally, fate will have it that I sang it. It came out in 2012, I believe, and from that point, I don't think my life immediately took a turn, because my phone wasn't ringing off the hook after RDA came out. No one really knew what to do with me. So I was pretty jobless for 2 years. Back in LA, working on what was supposed to be my debut English album. For whatever reasons, that kept hitting walls. And I, like 2 years later, I want to say Yannode Neendal came out, Yane Mattum Kadale came out, then Thalli Pogade came out. So once that happened, Thalli Pogade specifically, that sounds like, oh, my career is here in India. This is taking off. And if I don't kind of come really immerse myself in it, I would have missed the boat. So I say all of this to say this idea of creating my own musical universes, my own original works, and like really kind of putting my own creative expression out there has been in my spirit and in my mind forever. And actually was like my priority when I first started. Mm-hmm. But the universe has its way of pulling you in whatever direction it does. So it took me in this direction. And then once this took off, it really took off. Post Thalli Pogade was just like one of these. So I didn't have the same amount of time. And I kind of, my father started managing me right around then. So I was going to say I came to my senses, but he helped me come to my senses of like, yo, there's something going on here. Let's see what's happening. So at that point, it became less of a parallel path, and writing original music took a little bit of a backseat. But it was always there. I was always kind of writing and such. I think compared to other vocalists who have made playback singing their life, I've always known that there's a lot that I want to explore within myself musically that is not necessarily going to fit in the context of singing for films. I always knew that I have a very specific vision sonically, mm-hmm. That I need to give the world. And in playback singing, obviously, like I am an instrument more than anything else. You know, I go into a recording, there's a vision that's already there, and I'm bringing a song to life by way of singing it. And even in that, very clearly guided by the music director as to how the musical expressions have to happen. Sometimes I'll have some say on certain improvisations here and there, but other than that, like I'm an instrument. Whereas in this world, I'm the source point.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to dig into that and explore it because I have a lot within myself that I want to kind of unearth just on a kind of cathartic level. But also as I've gotten older and evolved and kind of released more of my original work, more so in English than Indian languages, I've also realized that in the current musical landscape, there's a perspective that I can bring to the table that I think is necessary, especially as around the world, so many eyes are now looking at India as this huge market to tap into, you know, and I do believe that if the perspective doesn't come from within the country, but rather if it's fed from outside, then it's going to get so insanely flattened. And the beauty and the diversity and the complexity of the music that comes from here will probably be lost. So you know, that post, when I did Coachella, that was when it kind of like hit me like, oh, I can bring a certain level of authenticity that I really wear proudly of being from here, and bring it to the world in a way that doesn't lose any of its core kind of identity. And I believe that will kind of shift the way people listen to the music in the world.
This Coachella is where you perform this Tirupugar song.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, no, when you perform a song and it goes out to an audience that is not familiar with the words or what you're singing, the form, probably what the raga or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Is there something that's does music feel better sometimes when it comes in a strange way as opposed to something that you've absorbed all your life?
Yeah, I think first, like from a listener's perspective, I went to a show now a couple years ago. He's a friend of mine. His name is Joe Rainey. He's from Minnesota, and he is Native American. I forget which exact tribe, so I won't try that. But his music is very much based on where he comes from, lyrically, genre-wise, sonically, everything. And I remember going to that show and not understanding a word, but being so deeply moved, like multiple points through the show. And, you know, I'm being on the performer side, I know what I'm kind of giving people, and I can see secondhand how they're reacting, but I'm not necessarily experiencing that because I know what I'm singing, I know the lyrics, I know the context, I know all of that. But being on the other side of it and taking that in that time, it was really magical because I think it just really confirmed to me this idea that obviously language is a really important aspect of song and art and communication, but this kind of marriage of melody, rhythm, harmony, lyric, all those things together create for an experience that I do believe transcends like language barriers and hits people in an emotional space that just is like kind of like beyond comprehension necessarily. And that Coachella thing was just that. This artist who was just on the brink of becoming a pop star at that point. Now she is. Her name is Chapel Roan. She played right after me. And so a lot of the audience that was in that tent was there for her, primarily Caucasian. Definitely did not probably know what the language Tamil was. Definitely for sure did not know what Tirupugar was. But like as the second I started the first note of that, it was just like this hush settled across the whole space, and people were just there to take it in. And that was like a really affirming moment because again, you can wax poetic about this shit all you want and say like, oh, music is borderless and universal and all this stuff. And sometimes like when speaking about it, it feels like, all right, enough, man, like sure. But then you see it happen.
And you feel it.
It's palpable, and then you watch it back. I didn't actually, in that moment, I wasn't processing anything. That second week of Coachella was one of those magical shows where everything feels like everyone on stage is kind of like buzzing just above ground. And we had like a semi-subpar performance the first weekend where we were, you know, trying to understand the context. But that second weekend we were ready. So when I sang the Tirupugar, which was the closer to my set, I was like in another plane, like just not fully there and in the best way possible. So I didn't take all this in. Then I looked at the video of it and I was like, oh, this is the thing this is like a moment. This moment encapsulates the thing that I've been after for most of my life. Having grown up in the States, but having this music form really deeply grounding me from as far back as I can remember. I think like subconsciously, I always knew that what I could offer the world, again, like I said before, beyond just perspective, was just music that felt super, super honest. And then I also believe like the music that I come from is like spiritually charged, right? And that's the intention with which I sing it. And I've seen it in like micro moments throughout my life, how that can really change the way people feel in real time. I've had various experiences of just like singing at home for like family, friends, and people tearing up or something where you're like, and when you're quite young, like 6, 7, 8 years old, that can be like a profoundly impactful thing for one's kind of understanding of what I can do. But that Coachella thing, because it happened at like such a larger scale, I was like, okay, these things that I've talked about for a long time, these things that I've thought is possible, here's like a confirmation that yes, this music that I believe in so deeply, that is like ingrained in my being, can actually do something beyond just, just beyond just entertaining folks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you sing a couple of lines from how exactly you sang
Yeah.
the verse of the song from the Tirupugar,
Yeah.
the piece from there?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I'll just say before, my engineer, JK is his name, he would do this thing, because I was on tour right before that through the States and Europe, and I would close every set with this piece. I sing it a cappella, no instruments, and he would take all reverb off of my voice. So it's a super dry vocal. So, and I was curious as to why he would do that, because normally in the past when I would sing a cappella, people would put a lot of reverb to give it space. He's like, no, he's like, I think it's cool if people feel like they're right there with you. So the way I'm going to sing it now is that probably exactly how they would have heard it then. Shivanarmanam kulira Upadesa mantramire sevimidilum pagarsai Gurunada Shivagama sundaritan varabalakandanin Sayale virumbi ulam ninayamal. That's like the first passage of it.
It's gorgeous. And did you set it to this?
No. So these Tirupugar, obviously the poetry is by Saint Poet Arunagiri Nazar. The versions that my mother taught me, she started learning when she was young in Mandavalli in Chennai from one mommy who learned. There's I forget what the group is called, but the composer's name is Delhi A.S. Raghavan. He's no longer alive. They call him Guruji Delhi Raghavan, and he spent the latter part of his life just tuning thousands of.
So
of
like the Tirupavi, it has like specific ragas for specific things. The Tirupugar also has.
There are different melodies for it. Like different people sing different versions. Okay. This is one school of it.
Okay.
So all the ones I sing, my mom had taught me, are of that specific school.
Right.
Yeah.
So all this kind of funnels into Sul. Now, it's called an expression of enduring love. What's that?
When I first started writing that song, it was now about like a year and a half ago. I was back in Fremont, the house that I grew up in. I was visiting my parents. It was like a Saturday and they were out meeting friends or something. So I was just alone at home with nothing to do. And it was nice to kind of go back there and be alone in that home, because I remember growing up, so many of like my ideas were born out of just like being super bored. And I feel like in the day and age that we live in now, we rarely get bored anymore because there's always some information coming at us. But I was just sitting in that room just with nothing to do. I think I'd looked at Instagram enough, so I'd put my phone away. And I have a synthesizer. It's a Prophet 8 synthesizer. So I just started noodling with it. And like 60% of the song was created within that one evening, where I just kind of dove in, and it felt like I was in high school again, and just making this piece. And what I realized very soon after I started it, or like once it started to really take shape, was the piece had so much joy in it. And a lot of the songs that I write are maybe not sad, but always like introspective and a bit contemplative. And there's like a certain heaviness to them sometimes. A lot of the songs I've sung for movies are about heartbreak and such. And I feel like that's been like oft occurring theme in my career so far.
Or yearning, no. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like that kind of like feeling of searching for something. And there's a certain heaviness, right?
Yeah,
a certain weight to a lot of the music that I've done. This one just felt joyful. It felt really happy. And that was a very exciting thing for me, because it's normally not my first instinct to make music that feels light and joyful in that way. And I started writing lyrics in Tamil for the first verse, kind of just like using I'm obviously not a Tamil poet, and my knowledge of it goes only so far, but just trying to figure out how I wanted to express this idea of the love that I'm searching for currently, where I'm at, is not like fleeting. It's not momentary. It's not transient, but something that feels like.
Are you talking about romantic love, or are you talking about like something more expansive?
I think the source point when I started writing it, it was about romantic love. It was like the search for a partner who's going to feel like I can immerse in the energy that they give me, and vice versa. I think through the process of making the song, I realized that the pursuit is not necessarily for a specific kind of love, romantic or family or, whatever, but the understanding and the realization that love is the way I've come to understand it is as an energy that exists like infinitely around us at all times. And we can choose to kind of tune into that frequency and tap into that and express through it and really actively engage with that energy, or like shut it out, and I think like once that realization like hit me, then I was able to kind of like open up. And I don't know, I've had some friends tell me like recently that like I just look a little different, and not like the little grays in my beard, but just my the energy that I have is just not as like this, just like a little bit more open. And I think I really attribute a lot of that to making the song. The song has been like, we've been working on it now for like over a year. And it's really, I don't normally, like I make something, then I forget about it, then I put it away, then I come back years later or something. But this one I've, for some reason, just like wanted to chip away at it and enjoyed engaging with it. And I think a lot of that is, I believe that when I write my own music, I feel like there's certain key, like doors that get unlocked. Cause I really pour myself into it. I'm never thinking about how is this going to perform? Like what market are we going to hit with this, or none of that. It's just like, no, this is a pure mode of self-expression. So I think I really understood about myself a few things. One, that this thing that love exists everywhere, and it's kind of on us to figure out how to actively engage with that. Two, the idea that like joy is, it's going to sound a tad bit flippant, but I think I believe it. The fact that it's like a choice, and that we have the ability, if the mind is disciplined enough, to really like lean into that. And three, I really understood this as we made the video, that like being around people, collaborating and making music and art with a group of people where everyone is really in the same space and same kind of intentionality is one of the most rewarding things.
Yeah.
That so much of my life has been like, when I was young, I kind of subscribed to this idea of like the artist who's really pained and like alone in a room, just like, brooding and thinking about one's emotions. And I think that was a self-fulfilling prophecy for a while, where I just had dreamt this thing up, then it actually was how I was existing for a while. And this song, the process of partnering up with Warner and making this label, and then that video specifically, we shot it now about 2.5 weeks ago, maybe a little bit more than that. it was so much fun, man. It was just like, it was my first time where we really like leaned into set design and made a whole immersive experience out of it. And I feel like the tone of the song really was translated into the tone of the video, where they feel like they go like this. And, you can't do that on your own. And that was so much fun. And also not taking oneself too seriously. Again, I think hand in hand with the idea of like the starving artist or whatever is like, you take yourself super seriously. And the process of making this and every aspect of it, obviously there's like stress and all that, but it reminded me that there's like a certain whimsical nature to life. And it's really nice to acknowledge and kind of like take that in and allow that be a part of my, the spectrum of the colors that I kind of exist within me.
Yeah, I'd relate to that totally because, when you start out, with my own experience, I think you want every review to be the definitive review of a film, or you want every interview that you do to like totally nail the essence of an artist, and you put that pressure on yourself.
Sure.
And sometimes you just F up really badly because it's like that entire pressure is weighing down on you.
Yeah.
And then you realize that whatever you do, there's going to be somebody who says, this is I didn't expect this review from you. This is like not up to your usual standards. We are something like that.
I saw your Instagram post the other day of like the two polar opposites of someone like really praising and then I mean, that's life.
That's life. So the thing is, once that hits you, you start taking yourself a lot less seriously. Though you're not taking your work any less seriously, but you start taking yourself less seriously.
I think that's such an important kind of understanding, and that kind of demarcation, that the work is still the work. There's a lot of weight in it, and there's so much pride and time and effort and thought that goes into it. But you got to be easy on yourself, because the world is filled, especially now, with an infinite amount of opinions. You're never going to satisfy everyone. Chances are, if you're making music or art or whatever that is satisfying everyone, that is probably pretty mediocre. Not to say that the stuff that's been championed as the best ever is mediocre.
But I agree with you, is that if you're going to cover I'm bad at math, is that LCM or...
Oh, dude, I do not know any of this.
Least common denominator.
Lowest common denominator. Yeah.
Suddenly those horrible things came back to mind, where I was like struggling with all this at school. But if it is going to appeal to a large number of people, you have to kind of make it appeal to that, which I don't mean dumb it down, but it's got to be a little not too specific.
Yeah, exactly. I think as I've really grown with my art and my music and every aspect of it, I what I've realized I really want to do, and what I have the ability to do, and then thus the responsibility, is specificity. I think, kind of tying it back to something I said earlier, I think my perspective, because of how I've grown up, how not just as a child and the influences, but even in the industry now, like 13 years or whatever, what I have to offer is like this very specific kaleidoscope of a vision. And that's going to be maybe not alienating, but if you're going to really kind of make this thing, it's going to be a specific thing that people may or may not know how to react to. Some may love, some may hate, or whatever. But you still make a statement with it. You know what I mean? And I think for those who have, again, the ability to do so, that's what I believe like really pushes any form forward. Like, take Rahman sir's music. Like, I wasn't like super aware of what was happening when he first bust out into the scene, but that was such a specific vision that the man had that changed the trajectory of Indian music and then global music afterwards, so, and that would be said for all of the greats, right? And I think it's really important, because or else it sometimes feel like music is not committing to something, and it just wants to kind of like exist in this limbo-ish kind of space. And I don't know if that music is ever going to like push culture forward. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I think everything has a space, but I want to push culture forward. So.
I actually think that there's always like musicians who, or any artist that works over a long period, they have phases. It may be the choice of instruments, it may be in the choice of composition, it may be in whatever it is. And I truly feel Rahman's in one of his most interesting phases right now, because he's not like, I have to give a hit song.
Right.
I want to do whatever I can. Like I want to really like kind of explore. Whereas in the early phase,
Sure.
I felt that the reason people keep saying they want the 90s Rahman is that he used to make pleasing songs.
Sure.
Like that used to, which is not to knock them, like you said.
Yeah.
But they were all like nice, smooth, gentle, something. Now they're like prickly.
Yeah, he's
and
entered
sometimes they go off into things that you're like, whoa, you know, the song was going like this, now why is it going perpendicular? You know, like that.
Yeah, I remember your review, which was written at the time of Yannode Nirindal came out. And I've read some of your work before, but that one specifically because I'd sung the song, I was quite tapped in. I forget, you said something like, it sounds like I'm at the top of a mountain howling like a wolf, like in a very positive way, I believe. But even like, I feel like his work for the last like now decade and a half has been like, oh no, I feel like this is what I want to do. Talipogade, another example of that, where you're going to like, and now like song, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a very exciting time.
It's a very exciting time.
For sure.
You know, the other thing that I heard about Soul is that it blends tradition and futurism.
Yeah.
What's that about?
I think that kind of, again, it happened very organically. The kind of starting point of the song was this like Swaram passage that I made. And from there, everything else was kind of born out of there.
Right. So just to interrupt, you, that day when you were noodling around with your synthesizer, the tune came first.
Yes.
And then you fit words into it.
Yes.
Okay, done. Okay. So
and it was kind of like a very kind of real-time process. So I was playing chords on the synth. Then I came up with the Swaram passages, Gama Papa Maga Gari Samba Gaga, and it goes on like that. That's the intro of the song. And then from there, it was just kind of a process of like what I normally do. I lay these chords down, then I just freestyle vocal takes against the chords, see what really sticks, and then just excavate the pieces that are like, okay, this, and then construct the melody. This time when I was doing it, I think like the opening line goes, Sol, you're in the Sol, Sendamur Penne, Wanna Terine Kadali. The Sol came very early on because what I was singing at that point felt very percussive. So
it did begin from a place of romantic love.
Definitely. Yeah. I like, as soon as and there's also this like very like hooky kind of piano riff in the song, which was, the piano at my parents' place is downstairs. So I was upstairs noodling on the synth. I went downstairs, like make myself some coffee or something, then decided to noodle on the piano. Came up with this riff. That riff felt super romantic and just like vibrantly romantic. And I think that is what really like pushed me in the direction of, okay, let's make this a love song. Again, I very, very rarely write love songs that feel like they're straightforward love songs. A lot of time, like, there'll be other layers in it or like double entendres and whatever. This time it was like, no, this is kind of the direction I'm going in. So that piano riff happened. And then after that, it was in the production, what I started doing was I took this Gattam sample and kind of layered it through the whole song almost. And it's just like a pretty basic, not basic, but it's like a very loop-based kind of Gattam sample that I had. So that was going through the whole thing. Then I added some 808s to it, and there already it felt like this marriage of tradition and futurism. Well, not futurism, but contemporary. I think the futurism came together when the whole piece was like fully formed, where it was definitely this kind of like taking hip hop elements, taking some very kind of like 80s pop influences, some definite Carnatic influences, and obviously like some soul vocal kind of things. And then I also do these things with my vocal. I speed up a vocal chop, which feels just like an electronic kind of element that I really like playing with. So it felt like, I've used the word a few times already today, but a kaleidoscope of all the influences. And this has been a lifelong journey for me of figuring out how I can bring these worlds together. When I first started doing it around 2008, when I first started college, it felt not contrived, but just a little cheesy. Like I'd sing like a song and then there'd be like an alap section or something. And that just felt, at the time I was excited because like, oh, here's like a portal I can enter. Going back and listening to it now, I was like, it's very clearly first draft. And it's been like a process of now like over 15 years of like trying things out, throwing paint on the wall, releasing projects. I had a project called Entropy that came out in like 2017. And that was the first time I self-produced a whole album. And going back and listening to it, a lot of the decisions I make today when I make music, I can tell, oh, I'd sown those seeds on this song, and that was the initial kind of attempt at it. So yeah, soul is, I would say, two things. One, the coming together of all these influences in a focused pop song. It's like pop song through and through, with the kind of like not just vocally Carnatic, but also rhythmically Carnatic, but also rhythmically kind of like hip hop and pop. The fact that I was able to put the puzzle pieces together in this way to create a piece that feels like three-dimensional in a way, that is what I think makes it feel like Indo-futurism.
Okay.
And I think once I was finishing getting mixes back from my mix engineer, his name is Josh Berg, and you know, when I make music, there's like a little bit of a flat, like two-dimensionality to it because I don't know how exactly to place everything. But when you get the mix back, it really expands. Yeah, I think that's when I understood that, oh, this can be like, at least personally for me, a pathway into the future of what quintessentially Indian music can sound like when it's still pushing the boundary of what a global sound can potentially become.
உங்கள் தங்க நகையை விற்று உடனடி பணம் பெற மேக்ஸ் கோல்ட் கால் 04445454545.
டார்லிங் மொபைல் உலகின் சூப்பர் ஸ்டார்.
கிராண்ட் ராயல் டூர்ஸோட டிராவல் பண்ணுங்க. இடங்களும் புதுசு, நினைவுகளும் புதுசு.